Welcome back. We are starting part 5, and we just completed the 4 white devils, the 4 foods we must remove from our diet in order to heal a leaky gut. And today we're going to continue looking at a few other things we'll want to remove. In this case, if we have an infection in our body, we want to start removing these things, and they are parasites, bacteria, and fungi. And we're going to be looking at these 3 things. Parasite infections are the first thing we want to address when looking at parasite, bacterial, and fungal infections. If someone had all 3, parasite infections would be generally the first thing we would want to address. A parasite is an organism that lives on or in another organism, its host, and it benefits by deriving its nutrients at the host's expense. This is important because the environment we have within our body will determine whether that parasite will stay with us or not. So that's why diet is so important. Common symptoms of a parasite infection include constipation, gas and bloating, diarrhea, aches and pains all over the body, IBS, allergies, increased appetite, especially for tapeworms. People will have really increased appetites if you have a tapeworm infection. Itchy ears, nose, anus, nervousness, grumpiness, chronic fatigue, various skin problems, tooth grinding, especially at night and with children. A lot of times you'll hear them grinding their teeth. Anemia, excessive weight gain, forgetfulness, vision problems, and problems sleeping are all common signs and symptoms of a parasite infection. 2 cornerstones of this whole program will be addressing diet and rest. The diet in regards to we're trying to create an environment where the parasites will not want to live, and 2, most of the healing happens during the night, so we need to make sure we're getting proper rest. And this goes for also parasites or bacteria and fungal infections as well. Common foods that can help with dealing with a parasite infection include pumpkin seeds, raw or roasted, garlic, onions, coconut oil, ginger, kefir, and yogurt. I could also include here apple cider vinegar because it will change the pH of the stomach, make it go down lower. More acidic, where a lot of people, that's one of the first places they'll have issues is that if they're not chewing up their food all the way, a parasite could go down into the stomach, and if that pH doesn't get low enough, it may not kill it, and it may pass and get into the body that way. So pH has a lot to do with being able to get rid of parasites. So apple cider vinegar would be another great choice. Another thing you would absolutely want to totally avoid is pork. It's amazing that the ancient wisdom book, the scriptures, mentions that we should not eat pork, and that if we follow, those instructions, we'll be blessed. But if we don't, we'll be cursed. And one of the curses that you'll definitely get if you eat pork, a lot of times, is a parasite infection. It's very common to get roundworms and tapeworms and all sorts of different worms by eating pork. Other supplements that we're going to consider is the oil of oregano. By far, it's my top oil. I always carry it with me for parasite, bacterial, and fungal infections. It will totally knock a lot of these things out. It is extremely powerful, and we'll be talking about it a little bit more here soon. Wormwood, black walnut, olive leaf, garlic, grapeseed extract, clove oil, and these last 2 are kind of interesting. Tobacco tea, which nicotine is known to be an anti-parasitic. A very weak tobacco tea can definitely cause the parasites to leave. Also, frozen cod liver oil capsules, if you swallow them, they seem to almost inhibit where these parasites won't be able to activate, and they'll migrate out the body. It's a very interesting therapy technique, but very effective. And some other things to kind of consider besides these foods and some of these supplements is that hygiene is really important as well. A lot of the parasites will want to live underneath the fingernails, And this is one reason also that children oftentimes have parasite infections, because they'll put their hands somewhere and then they'll suck on a thumb or whatnot, put their hands in their mouth. And it's very easy to pick up a parasite infection that way. So you may want to just practice hygiene, keep nails short, and especially if you have a parasite infection, keep nails short. Try to wash hands. Also with close contact with the spouse. Uh, Parasites can be passed back and forth, so hygiene in that way too is very, very important. If you have pets and you let them lick you, that's a great way to pick up a parasite infection. And I even know people that actually kiss their animals, so they most likely have a parasite infection. So if you're trying to overcome a parasite infection, you'll definitely want to quit those practices and try to really work on the hygiene part as well. Now, another thing I want to mention about the supplements: black walnut, wormwood, and clove are three unique ones in the fact that black walnut's known for killing the adult parasites, and the wormwood at the larva stage, and the clove at the egg stage. And by taking those three alone, you can kill almost 100 different type of parasites. They're very effective to draw those out of the body. And with that being said, at the adult, the larva, and the egg stage, time for protocol was really important. We want to make sure we have enough time to address all three of those, depending on the average life length of these parasites. We want to at least have a minimum of, I believe, 60 days doing an anti-parasitic protocol to make sure they're cleared from the body. And at the bottom of this video, I will add links for parasite testing, bacterial testing, and fungal testing. Next, we're going to look at bacterial infections, and we're going to give a general protocol for that. Bacteria are microscopic single-celled organisms that sometimes can be helpful and sometimes can be very bad, even life-threatening, and flesh-eating bacteria. So, for example, this bacteria on the right, H. pylori, this one is actually in the stomach, and it's one of the major causes of ulcers in the body. And the reason why some of these are really hard to get rid of, bacterial infections, is that they can actually manipulate the environment with pH and stuff like that. And you can have gram-negative, gram-positive, and depending on their biofilm, you may have to take certain things to actually be able to penetrate what they're cased in. So with that being said, some different symptoms of an infection can be an ulcer, nausea, gas, diarrhea, constipation, malnutrition, IBS again, obviously leaky gut is a major cause if there's a dysbiosis or imbalance in this gut bacteria, chronic fatigue, acid reflux, depression. And remember, serotonin is mostly made in the gut, 95% is made in the gut, and since it controls mood, if you have a dysbiosis or imbalance there, it can definitely contribute to a depression and also mess up the sleep cycle, since serotonin is responsible for that as well. And other symptoms are fibromyalgia and also something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And down at the bottom here, I have a note. The large intestine, aka the colon, has a quantity and a variety of bacteria different from those of the small intestine. The small intestine houses approximately 10,000 bacteria per milliliter of fluid, as compared to the large intestine, which houses approximately 1 trillion bacteria per milliliter of fluid. And you can see just from those numbers, 10,000 and 1 trillion per milliliter, these are totally different microbiomes. I mean, they're quite different. And what SIBO is when, and I should mention, the small intestine's job is to bring in, assimilate food into the body via the microvilli of the gut, where the large intestine actually moves. It's the last part of the digestive process where the fecal matter will be moved out of the body. And the problem with SIBO is that the bacteria from the large intestine starts migrating up into the small intestine, and this will often cause fermentation in the intestines, and gas is obviously a symptom, and things like that. This can actually be measured through hydrogen and methane, and I'll actually again put a link at the bottom of this video for a SIBO test for those who are interested in it. But this will definitely be something that you want to address to overcome a leaky gut. Also, like we've already mentioned, diet is huge. We want to make sure we remove a lot of the simple carbohydrate and we're getting proper rest, that we can overcome these things. Common antibacterial foods include garlic, apple cider vinegar, coconut oil, ginger. Ginger is interesting because it's actually a prebiotic as well, and kefir and yogurt. Antibacterial supplements include oil of oregano. Again, this can actually knock out MRSA and staph infections. It is absolutely awesome oil. Sometimes you'll need to carry your oil with it. It is extremely hot. Berberine, which is normally used for blood sugar, is also good for dysbiosis in the gut. Wormwood, pre and probiotics. We're going to be talking about this more in week 2, so I'll wait to then to address this in a lot more detail. Black walnut, olive leaf, garlic, clove oil, and cat's claw are very good supplements to overcoming bacterial infections. You'll notice that I actually put garlic in the food and also for the supplements. Sometimes food-wise, if you can get garlic, that's great, but you're probably not going to be able to get the concentrate to deal with some of these different bacterial things. So a supplement may also need to be like Max or something like that to be able to knock out some of these bacterial infections. Again, protocol, I would say at least a minimum of 60 days to make sure you're clear, and on tests to make sure you definitely have overcome this bacterial infection. Next up, we are looking at fungal infections, and of the 3, I would say the fungal infections are probably the hardest ones to get rid of, and it has to do with they can kind of use the parasites and the bacteria and also heavy metals to stay around in the body, and for that reason they're very hard to get rid of. Matter of fact, if you have high heavy metal levels, it's almost impossible to get rid of a fungal infection. You'll need to address the heavy metals first before totally resolving a fungal infection. A fungi is a simple plant that lacks chlorophyll. Fungus basically include yeast, rust, molds, mushrooms, and they can live on dead things or like a parasite, and they can definitely cause disease in man. A lot of the symptoms associated with fungal infections is normally manifested in the skin, whether it looks like eczema or psoriasis, dry, itchy, ringworm, toe fungus, but normally itchy and inflamed skin, and also you can have internal issues too, where it can be causing bloating and things like that inside the body as well, depression, fatigue, and things like that. Diet is extremely important here. Fungus feeds off a simple sugar just like parasites and bacteria, so we definitely want to make sure we keep the simple carbs down. Antifungal foods include pumpkin seeds, garlic, onions, coconut oil, ginger, kefir, yogurt, apple cider vinegar. And you'll notice that for all 3 of these foods are pretty much similar. There's other ones as well, but they actually address all 3. You'll just want to really try to rotate and use different antifungal foods on this protocol and add it into your diet if you know you especially have one of these type of infections. Supplements that could also help, again, oil of oregano is awesome. Matter of fact, if you actually apply 3 drops of the oil of oregano to toe fungus or to the nail, it will actually clear up. Even as bad as this picture to the right is, actually can clear that up. It's very, very powerful with dealing with a lot of different yeast type things. Again, wormwood, black walnut, olive leaf, garlic, grapeseed extract, clove oil, cat's claw, UV ursi, pardiarco, which is also can be in a tea form, which can be good as an antifungal, caprylic acid, which is in coconut oil, and also it is in grass-fed dairy in the milk. If you have a high concentration of fat in that milk, it's going to have a high caprylic value to it. Bentonite clay can also be helpful because it can draw out those heavy metals, like I was mentioning earlier, which can make way for being able to resolve a fungal infection. Myrrh oil and lavender are also very good at addressing fungal infections. Again, even for this one, I would recommend at least a 60-day protocol, and the diet is a big part of it, really trying to knock the population out. And you will want to address the parasites and bacteria and heavy metals before really using some strong antifungal protocol. There is some overlap, obviously, between all three of these, but these general guidelines will be very helpful in overcoming parasite, bacterial, and fungal infections. Again, I will leave links below for specialized testing and also some recommendations and supplements to dealing with these three things.